A piece of American military history lost deep in the South Pacific. Yesterday, we showed you how the team went looking for the wreck of the USS Hornet. The Japanese sank the aircraft carrier in October of 1942.
For more than 75 years, the location of the USS Hornet was one of the ocean's greatest unsolved mysteries. But recently, a submersible drone finally pierced the crushing darkness 17,000 feet deep and laid eyes on the lost warship. The thing is, the ship wasn't just found. It was discovered in a state that seems to defy all laws of nature and time. What the cameras captured lurking on its decks and hidden in its corridors is so chilling, it forces us to question everything we thought we knew about the deep ocean. Hornet's last stand. Just months after America was thrust into World War II, the Hornet was chosen for a secret, almost crazy operation. The plan was to sail her deep into enemy waters to bring American bombers within striking distance of Tokyo itself. The thing nobody tells you is how reckless this idea truly was. Army B-25 bombers were heavy, clumsy planes never designed to take off from the short, rolling deck of an aircraft carrier. It was a one-way mission. Every spare inch of the bombers was packed with extra fuel tanks, every ounce of unnecessary weight was stripped away, and the brave crews were told their chances of coming back were slim to none.
Doolittle told his men, "I don't intend to be taken prisoner. I'm 45 years old and have lived a full life. If my plane is crippled beyond any possibility of fighting or escape, I'm going to have my crew bail out, and then I'm going to dive my B-25 into the best military target I can find. You fellows are all younger, and you have a long life ahead of you. I don't expect any of the rest of you to do what I intend to do."
Yet on the morning of April 18, 1942, 16 of those bombers roared off the Hornet's deck, a sight that defied all logic. This was the legendary Doolittle raid. While the physical damage to Japan was small, the psychological impact was a bombshell. For the first time, the war had reached Japan's home islands, and for the first time since Pearl Harbor, Americans felt a surge of hope. But that was just the opening act. By June of 1942, the Hornet steamed into what would become one of the most important naval clashes in history, the Battle of Midway. Alongside her sisters, Enterprise and Yorktown, she faced Japan's mighty carrier fleet. Her air groups swarmed into the sky, relentlessly pounding the enemy. What happened next changed the course of the war. They helped cripple 4 of Japan's best carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu. Hornet's planes also hammered the cruiser Mikuma as the Japanese fleet desperately tried to retreat.
There were 2 different attacks during the day, and every Jap plane that got through our fighter screen was shot down by the Hornet's guns. 26 of them in 10 hours.
At Midway, the back of Japan's naval power was broken, shifting the balance of power in the Pacific for good. For the Hornet, it was another legendary chapter in a story that was growing at an incredible pace. However, victories at sea always come with a heavy price, and that bill was about to come due. The ship pushed on into the Solomon Islands, where the fight for Guadalcanal raged day and night. For weeks on end, the Hornet was the only operational U.S. carrier in the entire area, her pilots flying non-stop missions against enemy ships and aircraft. Life aboard was a relentless cycle of tension and exhaustion. Every launch and every recovery of battered planes was a stark reminder that their ship was the last line of defense. The Hornet had become the workhorse of the Pacific, but her luck was about to run out in the most brutal way imaginable. The end came at the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands in October 1942. Japanese dive bombers and torpedo planes descended on her like vultures. The attacks were merciless and non-stop. She was hit again and again and again. Fires erupted across her flight deck as explosions rocked the hull, and deep within her engine rooms, the machinery ground to a halt. Her crew, with unbelievable bravery, fought desperately to save her, but the damage was just too severe. The gut-wrenching decision was made to abandon ship. In a final, defiant twist, even after American destroyers tried to scuttle her with torpedoes, the Hornet refused to sink. It wasn't until the next day that Japanese warships closed in and delivered the final blows that sent her plunging into the abyss. Her career had lasted just 1 year and 7 days. In that incredibly short time, she had launched one of history's most audacious raids, helped win a war-altering victory, and fought until she could literally fight no more, earning 4 battle stars and the grim honor of being the last American fleet carrier ever sunk by enemy fire. This record alone cemented her place in history, but what she left behind was a mystery that would endure for generations. It's one thing to know a ship is out there somewhere in the dark. It's another thing entirely to actually find it. But the ocean's dark secrets were about to meet their match. Piercing the abyss. For decades, the USS Hornet was more of a ghost story than a shipwreck. She existed only in old photographs and the fading memories of sailors. Everyone knew she went down somewhere in the vast, unforgiving Pacific, but where exactly? In what state? The ocean is huge, its depths largely uncharted, and for more than 75 long years it held the Hornet in a cold, dark embrace. Many people were crazy about finding her, but most believed she would remain lost forever, a permanent casualty of war. That all changed when a new kind of explorer took on the challenge. This wasn't a mission for treasure hunters, it was a quest by people who wanted to give history a voice again. The search was led by the late Paul Allen's team at Vulcan Inc., a group already famous for finding other legendary wrecks. Their research vessel, the RV Petrel, wasn't built for luxury cruises. It was a floating laboratory designed to pull stories from the bottom of the sea. And they believed that somewhere in the blackness, the Hornet was waiting to be found. The real search didn't start on the water, it started on land, buried in dusty archives. The team spent months digging through old Navy records, painstakingly cross-referencing logbooks, after-action reports, and the testimonies of survivors. Every little clue mattered. The thing is, 9 different warships had reported seeing the Hornet in her final agonizing hours, and each one left a different record of coordinates, bearings, and rough estimates of her position. When you lay all that data out, it forms a tangled mess of conflicting information. But they knew that somewhere inside that chaos was the starting point. They compared every log, corrected for small errors in navigation, accounted for ocean currents, and even factored in differences between compass readings. Slowly, they built a probability map, a search grid marking the most likely areas where the Hornet could have drifted before she finally slipped beneath the waves. It was part hard science, part detective work, and part gut instinct. With their search area narrowed down, the technology took over. The Petrel is equipped with some of the most advanced sonar systems on the planet. These systems send sound waves down to the seafloor, creating a detailed picture of what lies below. For weeks, the operators stared at their screens, watching for anything that broke the monotony of the flat, muddy seabed. Down there, in the total darkness, a single unnatural-looking shape could be the clue they were searching for. But sonar can only get you so close. To truly see what was down there, the team deployed their secret weapons, robotic explorers. They used an autonomous underwater vehicle, AUV, a sophisticated underwater drone that could operate on its own for hours, methodically scanning huge areas of the ocean floor. Once the AUV got a hit, they sent down a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, which was tethered to the ship and could be controlled in real time. These machines are engineering marvels, built to withstand pressures that would instantly crush a military submarine. We're talking about a pressure of nearly 8,000 pounds per square inch. They were armed with high-definition cameras, powerful lights, and advanced sensors that allowed them to navigate in absolute blackness. At a depth of more than 17,000 feet, that's over 3 miles straight down, any mistake could mean losing the multi-million-dollar vehicle forever. The currents are unpredictable, and the pressure is so immense that even the smallest leak is catastrophic. But on its very first dive within the designated search area, the AUV picked up something. The sonar return showed a large man-made object. It was faint, but it was there. A long, flat shape with angles that couldn't be natural.
Its hours of recorded images show mile after mile of empty seabed, until...
How about in the top left? What did that look like?
That looks suspiciously like a ship.
The dimensions matched those of an aircraft carrier. Could it really be the Hornet, found on the very first try after all these years? The team was buzzing with excitement, but they kept it in check. They needed visual proof. The ROV was sent down, descending for hours into the abyss. Finally, it reached the target. The first grainy images were about to appear on the screen. The ship that wouldn't die. As the ROV's powerful lights cut through the eternal darkness, the wreck of the USS Hornet slowly materialized out of the gloom. The team on the RV Petrel watched their monitors completely silent. What they saw wasn't the mangled, unrecognizable heap of scrap metal they had expected. What they saw was, to put it mildly, the stuff of nightmares. It was a ghost ship. The Hornet was sitting upright on the seafloor, almost perfectly level, as if she had gently settled there for a long nap. The level of preservation was jaw-dropping. In the freezing, oxygen-deprived water, time had seemingly stopped. The first truly shocking sight was one of the 5-inch gun turrets. It was still standing, its long barrel aimed defiantly toward the surface, as if still waiting for an order to fire that would never come. The weapon hadn't collapsed or rusted away. It was a frozen echo of the ship's final, desperate battle. As the ROV's cameras panned across the deck, more chilling details emerged. The 1.1-inch anti-aircraft guns, known to sailors as Chicago pianos, were still locked in their firing positions. Their mounts, casings, and supports were exactly where they had been during the fight. What many overlooked is the sheer impossibility of this. The ship had plummeted over 3 miles through the water column, yet these weapons looked as if the crew had just stepped away moments ago. The ocean hadn't scattered them, it had sealed them in a time capsule. And then, something so ordinary yet so completely surreal in this deep-sea graveyard came into view. It was an International Harvester aircraft tug. The small tow vehicle was sitting perfectly upright on the hangar deck, its tires still inflated, looking like it was ready to pull another plane into position. After 77 years in the crushing abyss, its outline was still sharp and clear. But the most terrifying discovery was still to come. A little further along, the ROV's lights fell upon a Grumman F-4F Wildcat fighter plane. It hadn't been thrown from the deck during the sinking. In fact, its wings were still neatly folded back, exactly as they would have been for storage. The fact that the aircraft wasn't shattered into a million pieces by the descent and impact was something that stunned everyone watching. Seeing it there, so peacefully resting in the dark, was like looking through a window straight back to October of 1942. You see, these weren't just artifacts of war, they were pieces of a story frozen at its most tragic moment. What truly sent shivers down the spines of the crew, however, were the haunting traces of the men who served on her. In one corner of the wreck, a sailor's jacket was seen hanging quietly from a hatchway, gently swaying in the deep-sea current. In another area, a wash kit was found, with a toothbrush still visible inside. These weren't weapons or machinery. They were intensely personal items, belonging to men who had once laughed, written letters home, and worried about the next enemy attack. The deeper the drone explored, the more the ship seemed to breathe with the ghosts of her past. On her hull, the faint but clear outline of a single number, 8, was still visible. This was the final confirmation they needed. This was, without a doubt, the USS Hornet CV-8. That marking was more than just identification. It was a survivor of time itself, a fragile link connecting our world to the legendary ship that had been lost for so long. The Hornet wasn't a ruin, she was a memorial, selectively preserved by the very ocean that claimed her. The steel was silent, but it raised a haunting question. Deep beneath the waves, where the wreck of the Hornet rests in eternal silence, there are stories that steel and rust can never tell. These are the human stories, and some of them lived on through the men who had once walked her decks, men like Richard Nowatzki. When the news broke that the Hornet had finally been found, Richard was 95 years old, a lifetime away from the 18-year-old gunner's mate he had been when his world was torn apart. Yet when he spoke about that terrible day, his memory was sharp and vivid, filled with details that only someone who had lived through the chaos could recall.
It seemed like a familiar place.
Yes, it does. I used to stand on the right side of that gun. If you go down to my locker, there's $40 in it. You can have it.
He described the chilling sound of the bombs. They used armor-piercing bombs, he said. When they come down, you hear them going through the decks. Plink, 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 plink. And then when they explode, the whole ship shakes. For him, every shudder of the ship was a sound etched forever into his memory. The Hornet has been found, but countless other wrecks and their stories remain hidden. Is it our right to disturb these deep-sea graves, or should some secrets be left to the sea? Let us know below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.